Oh my God, it's the BC3 Amigos again. We're back.
It's February.
It's February. It's our Valentine's special. We're here to give you love and kindness.
Can I do a heart?
I'm not blowing kisses.
And we actually brought with us into our BC3 Amigos podcast here. We invited Mark Rhodes from Continia here to come in and speak with us, and we'll throw some questions at him and everything. But Mark, welcome.
I, in all seriousness, am so honored and just pleased that you invited me to spend some time with you all. I love watching this podcast. It's so much fun. I've been looking forward to doing this. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Hey, is he our first? He
is.
Wait a minute.
What?
Isn't that back? Is that a high school thing you're referring to, Rob? I don't know where we're going here.
Hey, keep it PG.
All right. Come on. But he is our first. He is our first of many.
Guest, yes.
Yes, we promised everybody in 2024 that we would bring in some guests every couple of months, and Mark Rhodes is our first guest.
I am not worthy. Thank you.
No problem. But, we actually sat down, Kim, Rob, and I, and we said, what's a cool thing to talk about with Mark Rhodes? Because the three of us have known Mark Rhodes, I would probably say more than 10 years at this point.
Oh, absolutely.
I was thinking about that too.
We said, should we talk about community, education, a little bit of everything, AP automation, should we just do a round robin? And we said, you know what? Let's do that. So, I don't know, Kim, you want to start with asking Mark a couple of questions first, or you want to just let Mark ramble on?
He's good at that.
I think we should ramble since that's what you do.
That's true.
But in all seriously, I mean, Mark really has helped the entire community of users and partners and consultants over more than a decade, bringing us together, helping promote that, and still does. And always appreciate having him around and giving us that insight. I'm excited to see where our user groups are going. There's more than one now, and I think that's a good thing. It's taken us a couple of years to kind of get it going.
Hey, competition is good. Competition
is
good.
Yes. And I'm just really excited to see all the activity from all the different parties that are trying to put education and learning together. We're such a big community. That's funny to say because we're really kind of a small community, but our user base is growing. And so I really think that having multiple options for people is awesome.
So I guess the question there would be to Mark. So Mark, I mean, you've been around, over a decade doing this, that, and you've seen the evolution of everything, pre-COVID, post-COVID. So where do you see our community going? I mean, you've seen that, I don't want to say there's two groups, but let's just call it two worlds that
options. I like options.
Two options. And so where do you see community going? I mean, in the future, I mean, where do you see it happening? Because each one evolves and, it costs money to run these communities and all that other stuff. So where do you see things headed?
I wish I had that crystal ball. Before I go there, though, Kim said some very, very kind words. And as you all know, and anybody that ever asked me this question and has me thinking historically and respectfully like this, it's only because we have such a phenomenal community that we were able to do the things that we were able to do and build it up like we were. And all three of you had tremendously important leadership roles for extended periods of time, and all played a huge part in developing it to what it is today. So thank you, but thanks to everybody who did that along the way, for sure. And I got to say, I'll tell this to anybody who asks, I miss it dearly. I loved being part of the community and having the honor of working with everybody and putting the events together and those types of things. As life goes, things change, things evolve. And you know what? I was reflecting on this the other day, right? We've got two options now, and it's been interesting for a long time. I was very curious about how's this all going to play out, and how's the dust going to settle, and do they take different avenues, or they offer different things, and there's quite a bit of overlap. But you know what? Post-COVID, I think this is a really good thing. We're in an unprecedented time where time is more important than ever, and more stretched and more limited than ever, right? How many people do you know have the luxury of going to a spring event and a fall event and multiple meetups in between, and maybe hopping on some webinars, right? Just don't have that kind of luxury of time anymore. And it's even more critical than ever, which I want to circle back to, because I think about this a lot. But I think it's good to have all these offerings out there, because people then have at least a variety to pick from, so they can plug in someplace. That's the important point.
Yes.
They got to plug in, right?
Very true.
Very true.
So Mark, from an ISV standpoint, how do you deal with it? Because while the individual user, they get to pick which one they want to go to, but can you afford to miss one of these?
There's the rub, somebody once said, right? And you zeroed right in on it, Rob, because you know the trick there. Listen, we have had a lot of difficult conversations internally, and it continues every event that comes up and every opportunity. Of course, we want to participate, but we just don't have unlimited pockets.
Yeah.
And so it becomes very difficult, and we have to pick and choose, and we're trying to get to all of them, and support everything that we can. But yeah, we are having to pick and choose, and as things continue to get more and more expensive, and coffee goes up and everything else, it's a real pressure point for us. And I imagine it's that way with a lot of ISVs, and we're all just trying to do what we can for the community. That's really what it comes down to. We don't have a choice.
Yeah.
That's funny that you kind of, that's interesting to talk about that, because, think about it. 2 conferences, that's 2 budgets, right? That's people, the booth, everything else that goes with it, the hotel, the airfare, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
And,
and you're not even including the meetups and the road show, all the
stuff
local,
in between.
All the stuff in between, but
plus the time away and all that. Yeah.
We once, the 3 of us once sat there and, we actually, pondered, the fact that there are 2 groups, and it has been one group's been going on for 4 years now. It'll be their 4th one. And obviously Summit's been going on for many, many, too many years, 15, 16, since the old Convergence days. But, but the question here is it worth down the road at some point? Maybe it's just, I'm talking pie in the sky here, that if the 2 got together and just chatted and just said, maybe there's something we can do together to kind of like, I own the spring and you do the fall, or just work together and like under one budget. And that way an ISV, a person like yourself, the many ISVs we have that sponsor these things, plus the partners that partners sponsor both. I mean, some do, and stuff like that. But is there a better thing for the community as a whole, for all the users and all the ISVs? Because you guys are theoretically a user. You're an arm of a user, really, because users come to you to solve a problem. So would it be better if kind of everybody sat down at a table and kind of come to have a come to Jesus kind of meeting and say, let's work together and figure this out? Because that way everybody can work. They have one budget that does, maybe there's ways of figuring it out how to pay it, you pay into your ante thing and you get both, or something like that.
That's an interesting thought. Yeah. I think maybe at some point in the future, I don't know that we're there yet, but it would seem nice to have them work together, right?
I can't begin to speculate really where either is going, what they've talked about, what's been attempted already, any of those things. It'd be easier to understand and absorb, but I don't know that it would simplify things all that much. I think that's what they've kind of settled into. We've got Doug happening in the spring and Summit happening in the fall. There are the road shows, but those are you guys know better. I haven't been to one yet, but it's a much larger meetup, right? It's a full day It's a full
Yep.
day thing, so accessible for local folks. So I think we'd still be looking at kind of the same pace and volume of opportunities. And so I don't know that anything would change all that
Travel
much.
costs aren't going to change because you're going to go to both anyway.
Oh, good golly, no.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean, it's
anyway.
so let's twist it a little. Let's turn the
Yeah.
subject a little bit around and go away from community because obviously, but let's stick with education so much. And I know Rob talked about this, and I'll probably defer more to Rob than me. But how do you educate your users, or basically partners and users? Where do you go with that? I know Rob loves that subject a lot. So where do you go with that?
Can we go back for a second? Because I wanted to tag on to something else before we go to that on the importance of the community and the events and the opportunity for education and networking and all that. Like, of course, I believe in this because this is what I did for so long. But from what I've seen through how busy everybody is, and customers and partners, and then from the increasing pace of technology and technological advancements, right? Community is more important than ever, right? These events and the opportunity to network and so forth, because you can't possibly keep up on your own.
Yeah.
Right. And
True.
This kind of tags on to your last podcast, right? You're making a big investment in technology. It's not a question of if anymore. You have to have rock solid leading technology, right? To have a good business, to have a profitable business, to have an innovative business, right? It's just not an option anymore. But you can't possibly keep up with what's happening out there. I mean, Microsoft alone and their product innovation, right? So the opportunity to go to local meetups and go to these events and get up the latest, what's coming out with the products and hear from others who have tried some different things, right? I think it's more critical than ever, and that's just not going to change. I mean, it's crazy. So
that's really, really true.
Yeah.
And Mark, you touched briefly on what's coming from Microsoft, but the big thing, and Kim has got a presentation coming up on Copilot, but that's the AI and how much more we're going to get out of the systems. These people that have not upgraded, they're really falling further and further behind. So
much.
You need to come and see what you're missing.
Right, exactly. It didn't. Not so long ago, it didn't feel like, NAV 2013 and NAV 2015 was that far back. Now it seems ancient, doesn't it? It's
So Steve helped me today with a NAV 15 situation. And it's like, wait a minute, where's the button that does this? Oh, it doesn't do that.
Yeah.
It's scary. I mean, we have two customers, the three of us. We've got customers who are going from 15 to 18. They just don't want to go to BC yet. And again, I know some people say penny wise, pound foolish. Why not take the leap? A lot of it is because of good old change management, which is it's the nemesis. But in that, there are people who just refuse to jump. But it's true. I mean, think about the volumes and volumes of change that now occurs every 6 months. Like, try to keep up with that. I mean.
Exactly. This is my first time working at an ISP, right? I was a partner before, then did the community, and then was a partner again. And so like I'm seeing the world from a very different lens now. And I have a hard time absorbing all the updates that we make to our software on a biannual basis, coinciding with the release of BC. So I can't imagine what you three go through trying to keep up with Microsoft and everything that's happening across the product, let alone beyond that, because you can't have a discussion around BC anymore and it just be about BC. You're going to be talking about Power BI, and you're going to talk about Flow, and you're going to talk about now AI and everything in Copilot and so forth, right? It's crazy.
Yeah, AI for me personally, it's a great thing. Don't get me wrong here. I totally get it. Yeah. I wish I was in college. It would be my greatest tool for me. I'm letting that out a little bit, if you know what I mean. It would be my number one tool of choice. But it's funny. We've been playing with like the bank rec thing, which does the AI, and some of these other toys that use AI. And other areas maybe down the road, one day they might get there, but a lot of them will not have it yet. But I mean, AI is the big wave. I mean, that's the wave that I think the surf's up, and they're gonna ride that for as long as that wave is cranking, and we're gonna see it constantly. But I'm always amazed because we hear about it from the Microsoft side. We talk about it internally. You're in an organization that uses AI a lot too, per se. But I'm always curious, if we turn the tables and we had a room of like 25 user-only people from whatever industry, and we asked them what they thought about AI, I kind of wonder what the response would be. Because we're thinking of it from our lens, not their lens. So I'm kind of curious.
I did a session at Summit last year, really aimed at the CFOs and controllers about how's technology impacting your team. That's really what it came down to, right? And how do you deal with that and the inevitable resistance to change, and what are the opportunities? And just by the lack of stories out there, right? The customers are really lagging behind. Of course, they're focused on getting product out the door every day still, right? But my gosh, I am for a while now really been focused on the CFOs and the controllers. You have such a tremendous opportunity right now to take advantage of what's happening with technology. Maybe not absorb everything and don't go grab the latest and greatest. The finance team doesn't want to be bleeding edge ever, but be aware of what's happening out there and make some educated choices in terms of how you're embracing this technology. And again, go to events, go to meetups, talk to others, bant around some ideas, see what's going on, and make an educated choice, because it's coming. It's coming.
Well, and partners need to step up to that too, because, now that the project times and everything else are compressing, I mean, you've got those automated setups on the systems right now. We have less implementation time on our projects because there are more automated stuff in the system. So, partners need to stay on top of that stuff that gets them more business.
And I've always been a proponent of the partner being a partner, right, to the business and being able to bring these kind of solutions to bear. So, well, it's really, it's exciting and it's just overwhelming, right?
Yeah. So something else though. So some of our, we recently had somebody upgrade from Business Central to Business Central, and that connecting to a bank, linking your bank account to a bank, their bank doesn't do it. It doesn't allow them to connect. So, some of these old time banks, they need to step it up or they're going to be acquired or go out of business.
Yeah.
So go ahead, Mark.
Steve. No, I was just because I come across that every day because, being headquartered in Europe, it's amazing how far ahead Europe is in a lot of these discussions, and certainly financial management, for example, right? They don't know what a check is anymore.
Yeah.
Period. You honestly can't use a check in most of Europe. That's one example, right? So we're fortunately embracing a lot of what's happening over there into our solutions here. So we've had XML documents available in our solutions for as long as I've been here. I've yet to come across a customer in North America who is going to use XML documents, but that's been a standard in Europe for a long time. So again, a lot of technology to embrace and use to become a lot more efficient.
It's funny. I mean, you brought up a new point, and I love thinking about it this way because what happens overseas in Europe, especially Europe or other countries, let me put it like that, because it is very broad. The fact that we are behind the times when it comes to the banking side of things.
For sure, on the banking side.
The fact checks, they're gone, right?
Right.
The fact that we're not that we should be just like England or Europe, automatically attached to the bank, let it upload, download the statements or wires and all the other stuff, instantaneous. Now, don't get me wrong, there are apps that do certain things, but the fact that 90% of their lives are not, in a check process, it's more like they'll do their payment journals, but it's all automated. It's like literally like press a button, done, and they have a totally different process to everything. And we're just behind the times. And when you listen to people overseas say, when you say, "Oh, let me cut you a check," and they look at you like deer in headlights, and you're like,
Yeah.
"Dude, I mean, I get it.
Funniest thing.
It's crazy." But let's go a little further with that. So
Yeah.
tell our audience really,
Yeah.
who Mark Rhodes works for. Like, what do you, what do you do in that background? And then let's talk about a little education, because I know Rob's got a question for you on that part. But why don't we talk about a little bit about that?
Good. You know what? I got to know, Rob's not in his usual spot with the big flag in the back. I just have to point that out. I'm a little
but I brought a little
off.
bit of home with me. I do have a gator with the Texas flag. So.
And when he puts that on, doesn't he look like somebody's gonna, like he's going to do a bank robbery?
Yes.
Right? Tell me about it. Look at that.
If he's got his horse saddled up outside,
he's got him against a light post, tied up against a light post in a city, like that kind of thing.
Speaking of which, if we do get back to conferences, I brought thematic hats. I have a toque, and of course, for Summit in San Antonio, I've got my hat here. So
yeah,
incentives to come back to that. Continia is basically a process automation company, and we provide a lot of different process automation solutions for users of Business Central and Nav. We're best known for document capture, which is primarily used to automate the AP process and invoice capture, coding, detection, routing, approval, and posting. So we got document capture, which also can be used to capture in other inbound documents like receipts, bills of lading, inspection reports, contracts, etc. Save it all in BC. We've got expense management for employee expenses and corporate credit card expenses. We have document output. That's for sending out invoices, statements, reminders, remittance advices, confirmations, etc. from BC. And those are the three we, as of today, have in North America. We are bringing over one of our payment management solutions from Europe and adapting it to work with the North American banking system, which has not gone very quickly because, as we just cited, but that should be available.
Down to our version.
What's that?
You got to degrade it down to our version.
Pretty much.
It's been laborious, let's say. Yes, working with the banks here, but that should be available pretty soon. And our sustainability solution will be available later this year, and that's for measuring and reporting on carbon footprints. Another way that Europe's ahead in particular financial processes. The largest companies have to start reporting this as part of their annual financial reports this year over in Europe. And so we have a solution for measuring that as well. So that's what we do.
Wow.
So Mark, I've gotten some clients that have upgraded to Business Central recently, and they've decided that because that Continia back in the day was implemented, kind of like on a wing and a prayer, if you will. I understand that y'all have updated the process and that people are now getting certificates to go through that process. And I know that because Kim here has one of those certificates, but explain how that, I believe that education is really important. And when people don't understand the functionality, it's kind of hard to do the process or get that system in. So I'm glad to hear it. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, so I've been here a little, 2.5 years? I'm losing track already.
Time flies.
Our company has grown unbelievable leaps and bounds over the past 5 years, and really grown globally and really from a maturity standpoint, and really started investing in, we have an incredibly impressive set of resources for supporting partners. We actually work through partners. We don't sell directly to the end customer, but we work through partners, and they implement and support our solutions. And we do that for efficiency, basically for the end customer. Another key differentiator for us is that we are built inside Business Central and Nav. So we only work with them, and you actually install it inside the application. And so those two choices in terms of how we operate turns out great for the end customer. For partners, guess what? Yeah, you have to get up to speed a little bit faster than normal. And there is a lot to some of these solutions. And so we've really invested heavily over the past 5 years in partner training, in our documentation. Our doc site is really amazing. And I'm not just saying that. And it's available to the public if you'd like to go out and check it out for yourself. And then in our on-demand training, right, for our document capture and our expense management solutions, we have 4.5 hours of training that we provide for free. And that's the first step for everybody, is to go through that. And then we have additional partner training. So yeah, we got that formalized and really shored up our partner resources to make sure they were equipped to be successful over the past couple of years. And yes, we have certificates once you go through that training to affirm that you have gone through that and know what you're talking about. And it's a big package, but we're here to support everybody for sure.
I can attest to the support team locally in the U.S. The guys are great, right?
Appreciate that, Kim. Yes.
They are just really on top of it. I totally love working. Document capture is my favorite, probably because I know it. I feel like a little better than expense management and document output, but the tools are really good.
Appreciate that. Yes. And we're hiring for our support team right now too, because if our partners aren't successful, we aren't. It's as simple as that. So we want to make sure everybody's well equipped. Yeah.
Shout out to
Mark,
Joseph.
Mark, I have a quick question.
Sure.
So I know credit card, again, getting away from checks and stuff like that, but credit card use is going up. So can you give a quick overview of that credit card process or overview of expense reporting?
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. Nobody likes expenses, or I've yet to find somebody who likes expenses. Maybe that's the better way to put it, right? You want to submit it, get reimbursed, move on with your life. So that's the tactic we take. You take a picture of the receipt, it OCRs the information off that receipt, you submit it, you're done, right? Gets routed around for review and approval, they post it, you're done. And for the corporate credit cards, we actually have a process and a system to establish automatic feeds from the customer's bank to the customer's business central system. So when that corporate card is used, that charge comes over automatically. All the user has to do is attach a receipt to it and they're done, right? So we're talking like 3 clicks to deal with an expense. So again, trying to make it go away as quickly as possible. And then you mentioned reconciliation earlier. We actually do the corporate credit card reconciliation inside BC using the bank account reconciliation function. Slick, right? It's lovely. You load up the statement, you hit match lines or whatever that button says, and you're done. So
That's pretty cool.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Basically, anybody with more than a couple of employees really should be using it, because we charge it based on just how many people do you have using it, and that's it. Pretty straightforward.
It's such an easy setup and everything like that.
Yeah.
I'm opposite of Kim. I like output because it's super simple for me, but capture is a little more interesting and intriguing. I get it. I really do. And expense is easy for me. But what is, I guess when you think about, you got the videos and everything online.
Yeah.
Do you see a lot of the customers, like people who get the products? Do you see them, the partners, just saying, "Here, go watch some videos and come back to me. I'll fill in the blanks," or is it more, they'll train you, the partner trains them, and then it's like, well, if you forget something, go back to the video kind of thing. So which way is the direction headed?
Well, it largely depends on just the partner's culture and how do they run projects and things like that, right? We try to provide as much as we can so that that's not the limiting factor, right? Worst thing is to hear a month or 2 after go live and the customer, we hear through the partner or we hear directly from the customer, this is frustrating, it's not working. So far my experience, probably 100% of the time it's due to lack of training and a little bit of testing, right? And so not surprisingly, that's what IT projects end up being, right? Yep. And so we sure don't want that part of the process ever shortcutted. That's why we provide a lot of training. And so I think a terrific path is get them to go through the on-demand training first. It's such a nicely laid out, sequenced overview. Once they go through that, the typical end user is going to know what they need to know. It's the administrator that'll need a little bit of additional training, and they do that with the partner, usually picked up as part of the setup and going through that. And then, of course, another benefit I hope our customers are taking advantage of for their new employees when they join after go live. Again, there's the on-demand training right there. Just go ahead and turn them onto it.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Mark, you mentioned training again, and a big, and we talked about this, I think, in our last podcast. The sponsor has to be somebody who has the clout in the company to say, we're going to do this, and everybody's going to follow suit. Because if it's just IT, or if it's just the payables manager, they're not going to get the support from everybody that they need. Yeah. So again, if you're looking at this, you're going to spend some money. Make sure you do it right. Get a sponsor that's going to support it.
So Steve, Rob, and I have been at this for decades. Kim, not quite as long, for sure.
On what? She's
Wait, what?
Think back, right? Think back decades ago. We were talking about the same issues, right? Lack of testing, lack of training, getting the executive sponsorship. It's the same success factors as it's always been, and I'm convinced at this point it always will be. There's no getting around it. And
it doesn't matter how much you tell the client, right? It doesn't matter how many times you tell them, right. and you tell them and you tell them and you tell them.
And we all have projects that went remarkably well because they listened and they did it the right way. And then we've got the opposite, and there's no getting around it. Yeah.
For sure.
You're getting me all fired up. That's for sure. I love talking about this stuff.
Well, before we jumped on, and I'm going to say it one more time, Kim, Steve, and I went through Navision Academy back in the day, and they had the greatest slogan, and it was at the very first page of their Academy manual. It said, if you think training's expensive, try ignorance. And that's what these projects that you're talking about, failures, are coming up with. They didn't train, and it cost them a boatload of money.
Mm-hmm. Always.
There should be something like that for testing too, right? Because you can train, right. And it can go
you can be sitting in front of the video.
Yeah, but you got to do that testing. I think that's where a lot of implementations go off the rails, right? Is in getting good participation in training. In testing.
Testing.
Yeah, well, they all sat through the training, but they didn't do testing. And testing is a reinforcement of your training, really.
Exactly what I was going to get to.
Think about it.
Testing, but you're also reinforcing. Exactly.
Yeah, think about it. It's like we all sit there day in and day out. We're getting to the goal line. It's like, oh my God, look, it's coming. You can see the light at the end of the tunnel. And you do all the training, and you leave them. Okay, here's everything you got to go test. I'll check in a couple of times a week, and then you log into BC, and you're like, nobody's logged in. No postings. Like, ooh, they're not really doing it. Then you're on the phone call with them. How's it going with testing? Oh, it's going great. Don't worry about it. You're sitting there going, are you aware that I can log in and see what you're doing? So the funny thing is Rob and I were on a phone call with somebody, and that exactly happened. And we laugh about it now because obviously they're fully live and everything. But it is probably the number one thing, because everybody's got a day job. We understand it. We really do. And it's probably the most painful thing to deal with one is the fact that now they've got to stay longer. They don't want to. People want that work-life balance, and they're not going to give it up just to stay an extra couple of hours to do testing. So it's painful.
It is great to have the documents though, like Continia does, and even the Learn Microsoft, right? I'm always telling people to go check that out, right? If you've forgotten something, you can do a little bit of homework on your own, and you're going to learn more from that rather than calling me and having me answer the question. You're going to go, oh, I didn't know I could do that. Right? So I think we've really come a long way back from when we used to have the books that lined the desk, right?
I was out on Microsoft Learn the other day, and I hadn't been out there in a bit. I was really surprised. Like you all remember, right? They had a really nice set of resources, and then they kind of pulled back on the investment for a while, and it wasn't really up to date and wasn't really expanded. And now they really swung back, and it is full. Yeah, it is full out there. So
it's robust. I mean,
yeah,
we that is my number one tool. The second we leave on site and we say we're going to go back and start implementing, it's like, here's Kronos, here's this URL, go to the URL, have everybody log in who's a user. It's you can learn, have Kronos open, because Kronos is Kronos, you can't break it. Yeah. And just play along with the person speaking on the video, and stop it, play, stop, go, play. And it kind of goes back to, I think, what we first started our conversation when we first came on, our podcast here, is it's all about education and community. I mean, we sit here and we have all of us, all four of us have been around a long time. And, I think everybody is like, what's the word? Like lathering for more education somehow, some way, whether it be automated from Microsoft or really the people who've been in the trenches for all these decades. Teach me something I don't know. Teach, I didn't know about that, or teach me, I need to learn warehousing or manufacturing or jobs or service or financial management and so on. But I mean, people who sit there and they go to these meetups and one-day events and conferences, and all of a sudden they walk up, they'll see you at a booth or something. You're like, what? There's AP automation? I mean, are you kidding me?
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
It blows my mind.
It's a continuing thing too, Steve, right? It's a continual learning. We did a national webinar, last week or something, and I was talking about the daybook report, and everybody went, what? What's a daybook report? Like, oh, let me show you. I sent everybody off to go try the daybook report. And I don't know how I found it, right? But it's that sharing. And it's a continual learning. I'm always learning something about the product.
Yeah, it's really
it's catching people at the right time too, right? I've seen that now, right? It's something they may have heard about a year ago didn't really resonate, for whatever particular reason. They were either two heads down, something changed in their business. Anyway, so just because it wasn't right back then doesn't mean it isn't a great idea now for you. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, Mark, they probably hooked on to some other great idea back then. You can only pull out so much at a time.
The brain will only take so much.
For sure. I got to tell you, I'm as guilty as anybody. Like, we're doing demos in BC and so forth, and I'm trying to learn BC as I go along, and I've got a question, and so I pop out and I'm on the web, and if I can't find that answer and somebody explaining it to me in a video in 1 minute, I get a little frustrated now.
And I don't want a 30-minute, YouTube. I want max 4 minutes, right?
I want to be able to dial into what I'm looking for.
So true.
Yeah,
so true. So we're coming up on our time here, and we've talked about community. I cannot believe we've almost spoken for a good 45 minutes now, but it's been
fun too.
It's been fun. I love
fun.
this. I love speaking with Mark Rhodes. I think we all love speaking with Mark Rhodes.
Absolutely.
And we talked about community, which really all of us have watched it grow exponentially over the many years you've been involved with it. And then now here at Continia here, and obviously we're all three of us interact with you all the time when it comes to Continia and stuff like that, and where the future lies for education, community, as well as AP automation and other things. So any final words for our viewers, or anybody, any final words for us other than the fact that, we talk too much?
Well, so we're heading into conference season, right? So I'm sure you'll be doing some deeper dives on that. But if folks aren't aware, the first user conference coming up this year, right, is Dynamics Gone Live. It's going to be in my home state of Colorado in May. So I just can't wait to see everybody there. And I'm feeling very much like a host. Are you kidding? We can't keep snow on the ground right now. It's 60 out there today. So I think we'll be fine in May. But anyway, looking forward to that. So yeah.
It's going to be great.
Although I've been in Colorado and took the Hog Railway up to Pikes Peak in
Okay,
July, and it snowed on me up at the top. And I was in,
Hey, and the
shorts
Rocky
and a
Mountain National
t-shirt.
Park has snow in July too. I can attest to that.
a little different.
Yeah,
Well,
we're gonna
Kim,
have
if you come out here in May and you want to see snow, I can make that happen, but I don't think it's gonna. Yeah.
we're gonna have a good conference season this year. We've got, obviously in April, the partners conference is coming, and then our users conference in May, users conference in October. There's other
And all the
conferences coming,
meetups and road shows.
road shows.
That's going to be
So
fun.
starting.
And
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
also, for the first time ever, we're gonna have another conference. I believe it's September, actually, Days of Knowledge America,
Oh,
or
great
Days of
point, Steve.
Knowledge US is coming
Yeah.
to America for the first time. It's the people who run all the overseas conferences. They're bringing their world to us here in America. And so that's going to be fascinating. So we'll see how that goes. It's an
Maybe they'll
educational
show us
thing,
how to get away
obviously.
from checks.
Yeah, I think they
They
should.
got to
Yeah,
not
can't
show
pay by
us. They got to
check,
show
no.
the banks.
I'm telling you.
Talking about that, 20-something years ago, my husband was working at a plant, and the guy was over here from Germany, and he was over here for months. And my husband said, "How do you pay your bills?" He said, "Oh, they just draft the account, for your
Right,
electricity and all of that, and they do it so much every month, and at the end of the year they settle up." And Tom said, "Well, so he write checks?" And he goes, "What's a check?" That was 20 years ago,
Yeah,
guys.
how about that, right?
I mean, when you say we're behind, we're way behind.
Yeah, we're
Wow.
seriously behind on that. I mean,
Yeah.
the fact that their whole lives as human beings over there is all about a piece of plastic, and it's all automated, and they have so much direct debit, and like we call it direct debit stuff. Like it's
Mhm.
whatever they pay their bills is it's so easy now, and we're just back in the Stone Ages, one would say.
We
So
are.
so with that
Fred.
said, I
Bye,
guess
guys.
we'll say thank you, Mark Rhodes, for being our
Yes,
first
thanks,
ever
Mark.
coming in to help the BC3 Amigos get together in February here. We thank you for showing up here, and hopefully we'll see everybody in March, which we'll see everybody around middle of the month for our next podcast. But other than that, we give you the BC3 Amigos salute, and
I was prepared to.
I was gonna we'll do the dance.
Yes.
But maybe we'll have Kim and Rob. He's got a good idea for something we've been all thinking about for that conference thing we've been talking about. Maybe we should have him come up there and do that thing with us.
Maybe get a
that's an
chorus
idea. We'll need the chorus line. We'll invite Mark up there. He'll have the hat. He's got a hat.
There you go.
He's
I'm
already
ready to go.
prepared. So
Yeah, we could expand to the BC Amigos to anybody who has a hat and wants to do the dance with us.
That's good.
So thanks, Mark, again. Everybody, we'll see you in
Thank
March.
you so much
Have
for
a
having me.
great,
I
great
really
day.
appreciate it, guys.
No,
Great
we
to see
enjoyed
you.
it,
Bye
Mark.
now.
All right.
And,
Take care.
bye all.
Bye, all.